we have on our right here, Andrew Lozano playing the often rumored but rarely seen blue-red Young Pyromancer deck. This is a Delver shell. You see a lot of the usual suspects, Daze and Stifle and Bolt. He's also splashing Geist St. Trapped and Swords of Plowshares. The Young Pyromancer, a new addition from M14. We've seen people try to touch this card in Standard, Drew Levin most notably in the Richmond Open. Sam Black built around this card recently as well in Legacy. Basically, you're taking advantage of the cheap spells that are available. Most notably among them is Ponder and Brainstorm, Stifle and Daze. I'm a little surprised to see the absence of Gataxian Probe in the list like this, as that card's excellent with Young Pyromancer. But again, a blue-red Delver shell with Young Pyromancer in lieu of Nibble Mongoose or Tarmogoyf or a similar threat.
Yeah, excuse me, I completely agree. I think I would play Probe. I love Probe. This cards seem like they go hand in hand. I think I like Young Pyromancer more than I should. It's definitely my favorite card from the new set. Red card, obviously weird to a lot of people that read my stuff here, my articles. But you see that it has the ability of a blue card, or a white card. It produces tokens, it produces board clogging capabilities. Think about a Young Pyromancer early on against a Tarmogoyf deck. I'm not too upset about that. You're being able to block humongous Tarmogoyfs. Think about it in the Rug Delver matchup. Blocking Tarmogoyfs, blocking Nibble Mongooses, having the ability to even kill Nibble Mongooses probably, and then being able to clutter the board up with these elemental tokens because of so many free spells with Probe if you played it, but you at least have Ponder and you have Brainstorm to kind of simulate a cheap card draw there.
Yeah.
So it looks like we have a game starting here. Stoneblade player, turn 1 Delver. It's hard to say Stoneblade than say turn 1 Delver, but you know, we'll see what happens here.
And that appears, is that a Beta Tundra?
Oh, look at this guy. Yeah. Fancy schmancy over here.
Stepping their game up, I like it.
Yeah, it must be nice, huh? A little risky. We have Josh's deck. I'm not too crazy about the Delver because I'm looking, he has a lot less spells than the Rug Delver deck has when it comes to able to flip it. It looks like about 4 less, 5 less. We'll see if we can do it anyway. When you have Brainstorm, you have a chance, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, it's way more reliable in Legacy than it is in previous iterations of standard formats. Brainstorm makes it super easy, even if your deck is relatively spell-light.
Right. All right, so we have a Wasteland turn 1. Pretty risky against a Delver. I usually like to have an answer to that first. Does he flip? It looks like he does.
Looks like he did. Not sure what is getting revealed just yet.
Camera kind of panned out a little bit here, it looks like.
Stifle was revealed.
All right, Stifle, pretty good against Andrew's deck, especially after turn 1 Wastelanding. He better hope his second land's not a fetch land, or he's going to be hurting here.
So a significantly less classy Tundra as the second land. If I was Andrew, I would allow him to actually replace the one in the graveyard for the one in play.
Right, yeah, because you're a gentleman and a scholar. I see this fetch land here. Well, I'll tell you a little secret. That is not going to work out for him if he tries to use that. I'm a paranoid Legacy player. I fetch game 1, main phase, and get island most of the time if I can afford it. I do not like losing to myself. Do not like losing my own decks.
Draws. No. Still, Andrew not letting himself get stifled just yet. Going to try to wasteland this Tundra. I assume this is good enough. He's going to let it occur. Happy to trade land for land. He's ahead on the board.
Right, and he also does. He still wants to stifle that Arid Mesa. I think Josh might have the same read that we do. If you had more land in your hand, you wouldn't have led with Arid Mesa after you saw Stifle. You would have played a dual land instead. And Josh is fine. I mean, Andrew needs to draw a land they can tap for mana because his hand is all spells. And it looks like a Tundra he drew. Nope. Yes, it is a heavily decked out Tundra, I think. Pretty good draw. Probably the best draw you can get. You're going to need to hit a non-fetch land in order to get around the Stifler.
So we're right now in Josh's upkeep. Andrew is trying to respond. I like this play a lot. A lot of people would instinctively do this on their own turn. It's nice to wait for the upkeep because Josh isn't using his mana for anything on Andrew's turn, so you force him to use mana on his own turn.
I think we're going to need a daze here. Floating a mana and then dazing. I love this because there's nothing he can do, Andrew. If he fetches here, he's going to get stifled. And he even floated the blue to stifle without having to crack his own fetch to do so. Pretty good player. Andrew can return his island to his hand here in also days, which he's going to do. If Josh wants, he can use the blue to pay for it, and we're going to be at a board state that doesn't really get anywhere for Andrew here.
Yeah. So this is where we find out.
Oh, he has a blue floating, so this is not going to work. I think Andrew's confused. He really didn't. I think he got lost somewhere in that transition there, forgetting that he had the blue floating. Josh, that was actually a brilliant play because with all these things going on here, Josh using that fetch lane could trick Andrew. Oh, let me crack this to pay your blue. Oh, just kidding. I had a blue floating already. Yeah. Gotcha. You know.
Yeah, no, and this is what separates the legacy aficionados from those who aren't really that much into the format. If you really like seeing a lot of shucking and jiving with blue spells for someone to try to get their first land into play, then this is the format for you.
Right, and it looks like Josh Rayden, just by his beta duel himself, right?
This guy, based on foils alone, I'm going to guess he knows his way around the block here.
Right, he knows how to flip some Delvers here. All right, so Josh now upkeep still, drawing, has complete control. Andrew has 0 permanence in play.
Volcanic, Lightning Bolt was drawn. Lightning Bolt drawn for, or a Volcanic rather also drawn for Andrew. Lightning Bolt the on the turn.
He's at 7. I like this, you know. He's obviously just trying to finish Andrew off here.
I think there's an argument that should have been done on, possibly done on Josh's own turn there.
Right.
But
oh, what a draw. Wasteland here pretty much makes this game a wrap. Josh being at 4 life, has a few outs. He can Lightning Bolt that Delver.
He finds a second Lightning Bolt, so that about wraps it up here.
Yeah.
He finds another Stifle in case he feels like he hasn't Stone Brain Josh for 1 or 0 mana enough this game.
Right. It's funny. When I first started getting into Legacy, I lost to Stifle all the time. After you get kind of used to the format and can play a little bit better around it, you lose a lot less to Stifle.
And there's another Bolt after he's going to find
fire, letting fire rain upon Andrew here. And Force of Will can't even save Andrew here because he will take 3, go to 3 or 1, and then Force of Will cannot
Josh,
be paid.
make sure to get the Beta Volcanic to finish him off. I really like that play a lot.
Right, just yeah. It's classy, you know?
Yeah.
This is a classy tournament. We need classy players here.
I like it. Big fan. So, on to the sideboard games. Andrew really didn't get to do anything, so it's hard to extrapolate too much information from that game. In his sideboard, he has access to a couple blasts, both blue and red elemental blasts alongside Pyroblast. All these cards are live against his opponent's blue-red deck. He also has 2 copies of Terminus, which is a little bizarre in this deck. Andrew's deck is a little more beatdown-ish. I don't know if he wants to take more of a control role in this matchup, but that's another thing he has access to. He has Spell Pierce and Fluster, so I'm very good again at fighting over these cheap spell wars. And a little bit of graveyard heat. 3 copies of Meddling Mage, which I would be surprised to see come in because these decks share so much overlap between all the cheap blue spells. They have similar threats. So that's another card that he has access to if he wants to do something, bail on all of one particular card that he knows overlaps and bring a Meddling Mage and try to name it. That's a game plan, but I would be surprised to see him go down that route.
Yeah, I would be surprised too. His opponent also has Meddling Mage, definitely not going to bring it in. He has Red Elemental Blast and a 4th Sword to Plowshare. I see the swords coming in, of course. I see maybe a blast or 2 coming in. He has Vendilion Click, that might be a possibility. He has Engineering Explosives, which is actually very good against Delver. Being on 0, he can be able to clear the board of those. Also Relic. It seems like these 2 guys have very, very similar sideboards, and he also has Wear and Tear. So you see a lot of overlap here. I think Force of Will is no good. I think in these matchups it is a grind, 1-for-1 slugfest. Spell Pierce is, in fact, a very good card in this matchup. It kind of plays the role of Force of Will, as you saw in that matchup. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Force of Will come out. A lot of people like bringing out a couple Days. I don't know if you bring out Days in this matchup. I know that after Days has been shown, the power of Days drops a little bit.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people whose opinion is, in these kind of matchups, Daze is pretty powerful when you're on the play and less so while you're on the draw, so that might influence the decision as well.
Right, and so I think also Josh did not see Young Pyromancer. So
He did not see spells because
Yeah.
Andrew was not allowed to cast them.
So if I was Josh, I would put my opponent on an identical deck at this point. He saw Tundra, he saw Sword to Plowshare, and I guess he could be playing Stoneblade. No, he saw Arid Mesa. No respectable Stoneblade player would be playing Arid Mesa. So Arid Mesa is a blue-white-red fetch land.
Yes.
So he's definitely in a mirror match situation. Josh knows, but he will be surprised to see a few spicy cards coming out. Maybe if we can see on Pyromancer.
Yep. And if you watch Josh's sideboard there, that was a subtle thing, but he definitely, all 4 of his Force of Wills were out of his deck box or rather back in the deck box in the sideboard. So ready to play a longer, grindier game. I think he's well situated to win that style game because Stoneforge Mystic for Batterskull is such a huge trump. It puts a lot of pressure on Andrew to be the aggressor in the matchup.
Right. It gives you a completely different dynamic to win. Young Pyromancer is a cute card. Like I said, it can really clog up the board and put some pressure on there, but it can't defeat a Stoneforge Mystic that gets Jutei. I would rather have the Stoneforge in that situation, 9 times out of 10. A big issue is if you are Andrew, do you know that he has Stoneforge Mystic? Do you bring Wear and Tear in?
Yeah, nothing that Andrew saw. If I was in Andrew's seat, nothing that I saw in that game would indicate that Stoneforge Mystic was a card.
Right, so I would again be inclined to agree, and I think pretty much you board out the forces, you bring in your better blasts and cheaper spells. Spell Pierce, of course, has to come in, and then you're going to see a pretty good match here, hopefully. No one likes to get Wasteland Stifled, but as we were talking about the 3 camps when you mentioned earlier, I think we can create a 4th camp that says Stifle Wasteland. That's my plan.
Yeah, sure.
I'll beat all of you with not allowing you to play any spells in target.
Usually those decks are rolled into the camp B of trying to fight the busted decks.
The rug delvers of the world and whatnot. Although I have seen a few Maverick decks lose to a Stifle. Pretty rough. But we'll see exactly what Josh is going to have in store for Andrew. We're going to see if we do have a mulligan here. Josh is keeping his. You really feel it in Legacy more or less than in Standard. Mulliganing is much safer in Legacy because of cards like Brainstorm. Against one of the Invitational top 4s against Caleb Durwood, I had a mulligan. I was down a game already. It's best out of 3. And it was a Brainstorm 5 land that I mulligan to, and I easily won that game because Brainstorm's that good.
No, and also because the games are so fast, the games are often about specific cards mattering more so than raw card count. There's some matchups where mulliganing matters and it's about 1-for-1ing just like any other match of Magic or in lower power formats, but there's some games that are just over so fast, or where someone's draw collapses to a Thoughtseize or whatever the case may be, or a Wasteland or a Stifle, where you can mulligan a little more aggressively. You kind of have to because the game can just be over. And you're saying, Andrew, here go to 5 cards.
Oh, that's no bueno. You notice that both decks have 0 copies of Snapcaster Mage, which I find interesting because Blue-Red Delver, which is a very similar deck to these, pretty much, not to the Stoneblade, but more to the Young Pyromancer deck, it plays like a slew of Dazes, Stifles, Spell Pierce, Force of Will, and then Burn You Now kind of stuff. So it's interesting to see Snapcaster not in there because I would love to rebuy pretty much every spell in this deck.
Yeah, I would. If I were to work on this deck, I think my first order of business would be adding 4 copies of Gitaxian Probe and then some number of Snapcaster.
Right, yes. And you can cut a land here and there if you're adding. You can at least cut 1 land, I think, if you're adding 4 Gitaxian Probe. It kind of plays a similar role and get to that mana drop there. All right,
Turn 1 Volcanic and Delver of Secrets for Andrew.
Okay, so Andrew's Moldify. That ain't not the worst card to play on a Moldify, right?
Now, we've seen before, we saw Andrew Wasteland on the draw in the same spot, and it worked out pretty poorly for him as Josh was on the front foot and able to,
I think it would only work well in this situation. Because of a Moldify, but it doesn't flip. Obviously, Andrew's luck is not in the same boat. You need a fetch here now, main phase. You saw Stifle. Do not wait. You'll pay a huge price for doing so, and he will go and use it.
So even though we saw that play work out pretty poorly for Andrew the last game, I like Josh doing it a lot more here because there's a reasonable chance that Andrew's draw is just non-functional once he's on 5 cards if he loses that land.
Right, and he doesn't even draw a spell there. Who cares? You
Yep.
You're pretty much taking 1 damage, no big deal. And he says go. So I don't know if I get the Trop Island. Does he have any basics? I guess he does not. I guess
No.
he needs lots of different mana too. Yeah, not Trop Island, it's Volcanic Island. I guess if you don't have any basics, you really can't play around Wasteland, can you? All right, so we have another Wasteland here. He's going to do it again. And Stifle, pretty awesome answer. Oh man, if that flipped there, we would really have a heck of a game here.
It looks like the draw was Geist of St. Traff, which Andrew is
That is not bad.
basically, well, there's
Oh.
Young Pyromancer.
All right, so if this top card is any fetch land or any spell, you're happy, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That Stifle was huge. So Josh here, I think he has a Lightning Bolt.
Looks like he has 2 bolts in his hand.
I think he's pretty much committed to playing. Does he have a red man? Oh, he has a Volcanic Island.
The problem, of course, is that there's that Wasteland in play, so if he only has that one Volcanic as a red source, he has to be really willing to commit it to the table.
Right. Little does he know that Andrew is not going to be wasting if he draws a land here. He's going to be playing.
It's for the Young Pyromancer.
It's cool to see Young Pyromancer. I mean, that's. I hope he does well here. All right.
There's a Stifle.
That is a fantastic card to draw because, for as much as Andrew knows, he didn't hit the 3rd land, so I think it's time to Wasteland here and then hopefully Stifle a 3rd land. That's what I would do. We know that's going to probably backfire because I think Josh is holding 2 more land in his hand too. But both these decks have 19 land, and Josh has drawn like 5 land, which is pretty remarkable.
But right now he can't actually, he doesn't have access to red mana.
All right, what is that as a ponder? Let's see a fetch land. And he will easily keep these. He should probably change the order from the blast and put Delver second because he's going to draw the fetch land, then he'll draw the Delver. He can play the Delver, and then still have mana open for Bolt if he needs to. But he looks like he just puts the blast on top instead. He wants to answer the Delver.
You know, and I
ways.
can definitely appreciate trying to play a little more conservative with your light total here and just remove. You can win the game kind of arbitrarily with any threat with Andrew on 5 cards.
Right.
Just preserve your light total and avoid trying to get punked out here.
I think actually it's going to work out even better because Josh doesn't know Andrew has a Geist of St. Traff in his hand, which will be devastating for him. Actually, I like his play. I'm just kidding. I'm going to take it back, and here's why. I forgot that Andrew has a Stifle, so that Flooded Strain is actually a terrible draw for Josh, or a terrible red source for him.
Yep.
So he actually has to fetch. Oh, he's going to do it a little differently. I would fetch, go get a Volcanic Island. He would Stifle, and then I would blast the Stifle, and then you could bolt the Delver. There's different plays though. Like all these are good. Like I don't think any of these lines he's taking are bad, and that's the beauty of Brainstorm Ponder decks. He can take 10 different lines here, and I don't, maybe one's 1% worse than the other.
I do appreciate that that Josh is being very mindful of the possibility of Stifle. He's trying to bleed out the last few pieces of reactive cards that Andrew could possibly have, because if he gets
he knows Andrew has a Stifle.
Yeah.
He flipped it on the Delver, so.
But he's doing this, he's willing to trade this for a daze. If he has it, that's fine. You free up your mana for other stuff.
Right, and Andrew will now draw. Actually, I definitely like this play because Josh does have a daze to defeat possible Geist. If he didn't have the daze, this would be a real bad play, not leaving that blast open. No surprise.
It wouldn't surprise me to see Josh just play his fetch lane and leave his Delver back on defense.
Yeah, neither plays fine. Looks like he drew a Wear and Tear. So Andrew knew somehow Josh was playing Stoneblade.
I'm Josh, I'm happy to say go here. Maybe cast a cantrip if you have one, but all you need is the time to leverage your additional resources.
Does he have a cantrip? I didn't see.
I don't believe so.
Yeah, I think he's just holding a bunch of action. Stoneforge Mystic, Bolt, Daze, Pyro Blast, or excuse me, Red Elemental Blast. Young Pyromancer.
And casting that is a huge cost for Andrew because it drops the stifle guard down and allows Josh to go get a volcanic.
I don't think there's no way he can do that. He's going to have to hope for the best. You don't attack here, you just say go. Or you can't attack. I mean, actually, I think I might attack because you want your Geist to get through one day, so that Delver's got to go.
So he's going to try to fetch at the end of turn, and this may be worth...
I think he's going to blast this.
I mean, I assume that we're doing this because we're ready to fight over it.
Yeah, I think we're blasting this.
He's going to...
Not even for the red mana, just the additional mana, too.
So Josh adds a mana and dazes?
I don't know why he would do that.
Well, I don't know if he has...
Does he have second days? He does have second days.
Yeah, he has second days.
Alright, so he's going to actually hard cast the next days, maybe? I don't think he wants to go down to one land. He will hard cast the second days.
It's fairly risky to hard cast because
floating.
Yeah, he's floating. He doesn't need all that extra mana. As long as he gets his volcanic, he gets to untap with... He gets to bolt the Delver end of turn. He gets to untap with Red Blast plus a Tundra up.
He actually also, with that mana floating, he can actually dodge a daze on the bolt that's going to resolve on that Delver there too.
He doesn't really need all that extra mana. He can afford to set himself back a land drop. So he's debating between either rebbing or bolting. The Delver decides to bolt, or to reb rather, saving his bolt.
I see why he saves the bolt. He doesn't know about Geist Draft, but he's going to really wish he had that because he's feeling pretty good. He has Stoneforge Mystic. He's going to go get equipment. We know that Andrew has Wear and Tear in his hand, so Andrew's ESP is paid off here. Getting Jitte, I would get Batterskull 100%, but I am a greedy man and I love my Batterskull. It's staggering the amount I get Batterskull over Jitte. Of course, we're way different decks. I just have a soft spot in my heart for a 4/4 lifelinker there.
Andrew untaps, finds a third land, so he can bust out the Geist now.
Yeah, it's time to jam Geist. If Josh would have got Batterskull, this would not be a good Geist player. Because actually it wouldn't be a bad Geist play, but then Josh would easily have not only Batterskull available, but if Josh draws, say, a Spell Pierce, he can Spell Pierce the Wear and Tear, have Batterskull in play, and we know Andrew's deck is probably kaput after the 4/4 lifelinker comes in play.
Okay, so we have one last sweat here.
Yeah. But he got Jit, so it doesn't matter. He's got plenty of Jit. Takes a long time to get going. He's going to clearly say go. I don't think he can attack here. I mean, he's got to hold back, try to block guys.
Yeah, he can trade. If he's able to successfully trade here, then he has a little bit more breathing space.
Oh yeah, he's actually in pretty good shape. He goes to 4 life, kind of low, but not too bad. Definitely better than 3 life in this matchup.
Yeah, it's a critical flashpoint because of Lightning Bolt.
Josh thinking over his options. I'm pretty sure he says go here because here's the scenario. He obviously doesn't think Andrew has Wear and Tear. So he's going to put Jit in play, and at worst he could put it on his Stoneforge Mystic if he loses his Delver in this trade-off here. So I think Andrew's going to play... I know he wants to play Young Pyromancer, but he can't play Young Pyromancer here before that brainstorm. And he makes a good decision here. You need to have the 2 mana open here. See a Stifle and Daze land.
Feels like Andrew has to spend so many spells fighting over what Andrew has set up that he has to let that Young Pyromancer go. He's not going to he doesn't have time to get into play and then start doing his thing.
No, definitely not. That Stifle might be huge here. It can stop a lot of things. It can stop a Stoneforge Mystic. It can stop a Jit counter trigger. It can stop an equip. I mean, I guess, Stifle is a pretty sweet card.
Yeah, I think Josh cannot wait to have this to make this trade.
Right. We're actually going to have a pretty nice board state here. We're going to have Stoneforge Mystic activated. I don't think he wasted Stifle here because what happened?
He's stifling the least play trigger of.
Oh, I didn't see that. That's nice. Very nice.
Well, it's still going to be a struggle for him to race.
Oh, and he's going to try. This is a problem though. Here, that is an awesome play, but this daze that Josh drew the turn before is going to be money.
So
he won't be able to believe it too. This is the third daze.
Andrew set up a pretty reasonable line here.
Yeah. I liked it.
Saw a path, but this daze is just going to ruin him.
Yeah. God, if you would have got Batter Skull, Josh, this game would have been the overest. I think Jit has a lot of end-game capability. I think it has a lot of potential just to carry the game away. But the thing about Batter Skull, it's kind of like a made man. It's already going to win by itself.
Well, I mean, the risk is if you're worried about Stifle, Jit's slightly safer to get if you think you have more time.
Yeah.
Because if the comes into play trigger gets stifled, then you're frozen. Like you can't really move it around.
It takes 2 full turns to undo that with 3 lands.
Yeah. So if Josh really respects the threat of stifle, then it makes a little bit more sense to go get Umezawa's Jite.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a huge draw. Geist off the top.
Oh man, that is something.
Spectacular draw.
That is a magic card. None of his creatures actually can even attack. I mean, he will attack anyway, but without dying to the Geist, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, and Josh shaking his head currently.
You're looking at Lightning Bolt. You're looking at Brainstorm. I mean, clearly you brainstorm here and see.
I don't know if he has a. Well, I mean, the issue that I have with this is that he could actually just run his Stoneforge Mystic to get 2 counters, move the Batter Skull over to. He's still facing lethal that way, right? Because he only gains 4 in that world, and there's 2 triggers coming. Yeah, he does.
The stifle can save Geist. He can stifle the Geist trigger of 4/4 coming into play.
But he still might not be able to stem off all of the damage here.
Right.
Just a really awkward game, and keep in mind Andrew was on 5 cards to start this game too.
Yeah, it shows you that, especially in this matchup, it's all about Geist. I mean, they can't kill it. Neither player can kill the Geist that resolves. We mused about it yesterday about how Geist is pretty good, you know?
Well,
and here you see it right here. And
you know, furthermore, neither one of these decks I would typify as being a control deck, but a lot of control decks went to Geist of St. Trap to Legend Rule opposing Geist of St. Trap. It's a very common sideboard strategy.
Right.
That's not a thing you can do anymore.
Yeah, I actually packed 1 Phantasmal image in my sideboard for the control mirror. Excuse me, 2 Phantasmal images against Michael Hetrick, and it came in real handy because, you know, Resolve Geist is bad news.
Josh is going to attack. Andrew has decided there's anything that could be going on here that would cause him to lose this Geist if he blocks.
Nothing in this world.
No pump spells for Josh, and so
a second main phase Dread of Night, maybe. I've had that cast on me before. It's not much. Let's get these little dice out of the way. Clearly see that Jit is in control. He can also kill the Angel with Grim Lavamancer and stifle the trigger and go to 2. There's no real good play for him there. He just does his best here.
Stifling the trigger. It looks like he's going to both bolt and then shrink the token with his Jite.
Going to 2 life. If Josh would have hit a land off of that Brainstorm, we would have had a pretty decent ball game there. Not only could he have stifled, his second land would be able to re-equip the Jit to the Grim Lavamancer and pump to a 3/3 and block the Geist in Trap.
Andrew passes the turn, and it is really interesting to see. You know, we're used to Umezawa's Jite starts going on to a creature, and that's just the end of a creature mirror match. That's where the game ends. But
thank you for Hexproof, right?
Geist of St. Well, it's a mixture of Geist of St. Trap being untargetable. That's one thing that's going on here. And 2 is just Josh is so 2 mana to equip in these mirror matches where they're both land light, and Wasteland and Stifle are both a thing that's going on.
Right.
2 mana to move onto your creature is actually a huge opportunity cost, and neither one of these decks has an unlimited supply of creatures to begin with.
Right. But if guys didn't have Hexproof, this game would have been over.
Yes, that is definitely true.
Yeah. It's he's definitely quite appealing that he can be enchanted, but cannot have enchanted things onto him from your opponent. Josh is thinking. I mean, he's in a situation where you can't even ledger rule anymore. I don't know. There's not really much he can do in this point. He's shaking his head. He knows, he's just delaying the inevitable here. Luckily, we have another game after this. If he is unable to pry victory here.
I mean, he does get to gain 2 life, but that doesn't cover the token that's coming across, so he almost, I believe he has drawn Brainstorm for the turn. He's going to go ahead and attacks, and he plays a Vendilion Click.
And we're
See a
blocking.
double jump block.
We'll kill. No, it doesn't kill. No. Right? How do you block the flyer with
Right.
the long
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah.
Don't worry, Andrew. It's good. Still good.
Oh, here's our own Geist.
If we were playing a month ago, that we would still be.
I would not show him this Geist here. Even though he gets. Yeah. Well, I was just gonna see here. He can't even play the Geist. So it doesn't matter. He could sword the Angel and then die to it for 2 damage. We're going to go to game 3.
And what is really interesting is Josh actually just showed that he brought in Wear and Tear himself. I guess he's maybe anticipating that Andrew is playing the same deck, but Andrew actually has no targets. Actually, in his entire 75, it appears, for either a Disenchant or a Shatter. So
yeah, we are. That is a dead card.
So going on to a third game again, Andrew there. 1 on a 5 card hand. And that's 2 games in a row where we've seen someone open on Land Delver, the opposing player respawn with a Wasteland, and then the first player winning.
Yeah, the Wastelanding in that situation obviously is much better against decks that don't have a 1-drop. Even against Deathrite Shaman, they play land Deathrite Shaman, you Wasteland them, they're not behind at all. You're behind. They're going to untap with 2 lands. And it's pretty rough to come back from that.
Well, I didn't mind Josh's Wasteland there, again, because Andrew's on 5 cards.
Yeah, he mulled a 5. I'd Wasteland you 10 out of 10 times there.
Right.
But obviously, Andrew had a couple more land in his hand, which is fortunate for him. I think it's been fun to watch these 19 land decks easily have 4 or 5 land each game. I mean, I think it's very fortuitous.
Well, I mean, they can trip a lot, and so if they're looking for lands, it's not impossible for them to find them, and if they are...
Yeah, I wish you'd tell my Stoneblade deck that.
looking for spells...
Getting Wasteland with my 22 land, I'm like, Ponder, Brainstorm. Oh, where is it?
I mean, that's sort of been the secret of success to Rogue Delver, right?
Yeah.
It's how can you possibly play this 18 land deck with 4 Wastelands? How can that be a thing? And the answer is Ponder and Brainstorm allow you to cheat in both directions.
Right, and it allows you to have 1 land and win. Like, they actually don't need more than 1 land half the time. I've seen it operate with a mana, a Delver, a Nimble Mongoose, and then one day they'll draw their 2nd land, play the Tarmogoyf. I don't think they even have a spell that costs 2 besides Tarmogoyf, do they? Not counting days, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, occasionally I've seen some Rogue Delver lists that have something like Sulfuric Vortex in the sideboard.
But main deck, I don't think there's any 2s, are there? Yeah. So they are literally equipped for a 1 mana battle.
Right.
And I mean, that's good. This deck needs to get to 3 mana. It has Geist of St. Traff, 3 in one list, 2 in the other, and then his third Geist is a Vendilion Click. And if you tell a Stoneblade player, yeah, you only need 2 land, you're blind to yourself. So he has Stoneforge Mystic, and as you saw and as you commented, you need mana to equip Jitte. You definitely are playing 19 land. I think it's a pretty greedy proposition here.
Yeah, particularly with 4 Wastelands. I mean, that's the thing that puts it over the top.
Yeah, and play what you like. Play what you think works. I think in Magic, even with 19 land and 22 land, the difference is not exactly an 80% difference where you'll draw land and I won't kind of thing. But you're definitely taking a huge risk here when you're playing these mana-intensive cards with 19 land, 4 Wasteland.
Yeah. But, Josh has a lot of the same advantages that Rogue Delver decks do, is he needs very little mana to operate. He has a ton of cheap spells, a ton of free spells, and so even though he's going up to Geist, There's only 2 of them. There's 1 copy of Vendilion Click, and for the most part, you can just play your standard Rug Delver type of game with Grim Lavamancer replacing some other 1-drop and a couple different answer cards. He has Swords of Plowshares instead of Chain Lightning or whatever you want your other removal spell to be.
Right, yeah.
So there's a lot of similarities, but he gets access to the powerful white cards, which can give him an entirely different path if he decides to.
Right. Yeah, I think I put Stoneforge Mystic in the 3-mana, 4-mana category also. Just like you said, very mana intensive, but let's see if Andrew Lozano's non-Stoneforge Mystic deck will take advantage of Josh's much more mana intensive deck.
Josh opens up with a Volcanic Island and a Grim Lavamancer.
And we're going to see either Delver here or Lightning Bolt, if I had to guess.
Delver is a pretty greedy play because Josh could easily be sandbagging a fetch land and a cantrip.
Yeah, I definitely would not play Delver here.
I definitely gone basic Mountain Lavamancer myself, trying to induce someone to play a 1-drop.
Yeah.
Where I had fetch land plus 1-mana spell rolled up.
Yeah, it feels bad when getting that done to you, so I definitely do not support that. It looks like a sword. That's surgical. It's surgical.
It's a sword, a bolt, and
oh, that's a bolt. Never mind. It looks like surgical.
Yeah, surgical is one of the 3 cards.
Okay. He's gonna shuffle there. I think he might be land white. I saw a Tundra, but I think that's it. And as we mentioned earlier, if a Rug Delver player has Trop Island in play and then holding a Volcanic Island, and they have 3 spells on top, they're not shuffling that top of their library. They're real happy about those cards because they're all 1 mana. So we draw here. Don't know what.
Might have been the return of the surgical extraction.
Yeah, it kind of looked black from the side here. Surgical's kind of funny against Grim Lavamancer. You're gonna have to do it obviously before he untaps and is able to use it. Wasteland. I see Wear and Tear again. It's one of those cards that's a necessary evil. You can't let Josh beat you with Stoneforge Mystic. And after seeing Wear and Tear, I wouldn't be at all shocked to see Josh go straight Grim Lavamancer, Delver, Geist, Click, Beatdown. Seems like Stoneforge Mystic is quite the backup plan for his deck.
Yep.
Stifling the Wasteland feels good.
I'm a little surprised to see Andrew fire off a Wasteland there with Geist in his hand. It feels like the game is something of a race to get to that card first.
Right. It seemed like it was all in the back of Geist that last game. And that Mold of 5 victory had no shot without him. He's fetching here. Oh, I think we might have a Geist of our own. And if that's the case, Andrew is in big trouble.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he has any protection from it in his hand. I don't know if he has any permission. Oh, he's shortcutting. This is a Stoneforge.
Alright, so he has a Wear and Tear, so Andrew's like, yeah, go for it. Knock yourself out. I'd get Batterskull here, but we'll get Jet. I just like Batterskull so much against Geist and Traft. It's definitely more dangerous, but it's a powerhouse. That last game, do you think Andrew in a million years had a shot against a Batterskull that game with the Geist assault?
Not if Andrew's able to stifle the trigger.
Well, he didn't have he wasted the stifle immediately before the equipment was even shown on that fetch land. So without a stifle, let's say he has no stifle and he has Batterskull, I think that game would have been, I think we would see Josh sweep the series.
So we see a Bolt here at the end of the turn on the Stoneforge Mystic, which is meant by days, and Josh is doing all the tempo stuff that you historically associate with Rug Delver. A lot of the same stuff going on over here. Stifling a Wasteland, dazing a spell, just
maybe
advancing his board without and contracting Andrew's development without prohibiting his own development.
Maybe it's all part of a plan. Maybe Josh already has a Batterskull in hand too. And obviously, like you said, Josh is setting up this board just like Rug Delver, keeping Andrew off lands, off spells, and it seems like, look at all the permanents are all on one side of the board.
Right.
Maybe he has a Batterskull already, and then if he does, that's the point is moot then. So he's thinking I don't like a lot of these sideboard cards from Andrew. I don't like the Surgical coming in. There's no Snapcaster Mage. It's definitely just for I don't like this card and I want to get rid of it forever. Or maybe a read he might get on a card maybe in his hand and multiples. But I have 3 Surgical on my board, and I'm very reluctant to bring them in.
Yep. I mean, if you think the games are going to be a little bit about Snapcaster Maging, maybe that's a different story, but that's not what's really going on in either one of these decks.
Right, we both know that there's, and I'm sure they saw a lot of each other's deck game too, that there's not a lot of snapping going on here.
And Wasteland is usually a pretty strong indicator that Snapcaster Mage is not in the deck.
Right.
Very hard to enable both things.
Right.
Josh, with 4 permanents in play, retail value roughly $3,000. Welcome to Legacy.
Yep. Going beta, going big.
Foil Japanese polluted Delta, and
yeah, that ain't bad.
you know,
I have some unlimited, that's gonna be revised, dual lands with creases down the middle. Some Jaces that are barely recognizable. They've begun to disintegrate. We joked earlier. Pat told me about his lightning bolts that are barely magic cards at this point.
Yeah.
More like mush. You know, who cares? We're having a good time with our cards here. Playing lots of matches.
Josh finding a second volcanic island. Let's see if he makes any sort of big move here. Just fetching now so he can avoid potentially getting stifled.
He fetched prior, he didn't brainstorm because he has click.
Yeah, he's clicking in the draw step.
This click will happen. Andrew does not have a daze. Josh is looking pretty good. And here's another reason why I definitely wouldn't get Jit. Grim Lavamancer is almost an identical Jit ability in this situation. If he plays anything that Jit would just dominate, Grim Lavamancer dominates it on board. So I think Batter Skull is kind of just to supplement it, something different.
Yeah, it's a different angle of attack.
Yeah.
So Josh is now recording the contents of Andrew's hand, which is Source of Plowshares, Geist of Saint Trap, Wear Tear, Surgical Extraction, and 2 lands.
I'm sure he's like, Surgical Extraction. I'm not choosing that one. I think he's going to put Geist of Saint Trap on the bottom of the library. Who cares about all those other cards?
Well, he may want to try to land his equipment. If he has Daze in hand right now, he might be willing to just let Andrew have Geist.
Oh, yeah. If he has Daze, we are taking that Wear and Tear, definitely. If he does not, why lose to the same thing he lost to twice or already lost?
And with a hand of Plow, Brainstorm, and the equipment, he's just putting Geist on the bottom.
I like that play. I mean, you can get some advantage from just taking the Wear and Tear. I think he drew another Geist.
Yeah, it looks like it was Geist right off the top.
How lucky.
And if I'm Andrew, I'm going for it right now.
Right.
I'm not respecting Daze at all after Josh took the previous Geist.
Oh, definitely not. Josh is going to be pretty upset about this. It's far from over. We're going to have a full turn of Jit Equip Attack, which on a Vendilion click is going to be pretty good. So even with the Wear and Tear, he's going to be able to gain some life. He actually can stop Geist himself from attacking here too.
And
oh, he's hitting Daze first.
yeah.
Players, your appearance for round
I would assume we're surgicaling Daze.
posted on blue paper.
I would not go in his deck and get any Dazes. I would shuffle up and hand him back his deck. I've done this before also. You definitely want to let him have his Dazes.
Yeah, you're
That's
probably pretty happy if he draws Daze at any point.
Right. He has 2 more land in his hand than Andrew does. So Daze is not countering anything for the rest of this game. I bet Josh is ecstatic that he's going to not have to draw that. And now Josh has a pretty good chance to draw a 4th land. Taking 4 more dead draws out of the way. I think Josh should shuffle his deck. Just kind of hand it back to him.
And there's Geist. As we saw last game where Andrew was behind in basically every facet of the game, but was able to kind of punk Josh out with Geist of Saint Trap. We might be possible we're going to see a replay.
Right. Geist is it's quite the magic card.
Yeah.
I think he drew a Stoneforge Mystic.
Yeah.
I think you definitely brainstorm first here. Use your mana, shuffle away things. I mean, you don't have any 3-minute spells, so it's time to brainstorm.
Especially since you have a piece of equipment in your hand, you may want to shuffle back and then just get again with the Stoneforge.
Yeah. Just go ahead and brainstorm here. You definitely do not play. I don't think you want to play Stoneforge first here because you really need to get these junk out of your hand. Just gonna go ahead and do that. Anywho,
Finds a Batter Skull.
Batter Skull is the key to victory at this point. Jit's not going to be able to do too much. You definitely leave click on the D here. Make sure you defend well against the guys coming at you. I really think he needs a brainstorm to hit mana here. I mean, now it's a lot worse.
And I don't think we want to send an attack at this point. We're kind of committed to not brainstorming now that we've gone down this road.
Right, because now we're maybe want to use Grim Lavamancer here.
I think I actually would have considered sending the click that there.
He wants to. I think he wants to. He doesn't want to double block the Stoneforge. I think he really thinks Batter Skull is the key, which I'm not too. He does. He knows he has Sword to Plowshare in his hand.
All right, it looks like he has a second plow too, so he's about to blow this game wide open because Grim Lavamancer is not going to be able to contain this board whatsoever.
No, definitely not. Oh,
He's going to go for the trap here. He's going to offer up the double block, which is pretty cagey.
I think Josh will definitely not double block here.
But it's hard to believe that are you really believing that his card the card drawn was plow?
No, the only reason I won is because I think my only chance this game is to get that Batter Skull playing. I think here's the key mistake in this tournament. The key mistake here is if you brainstorm during your turn, which you need to do. Forget the 2 damage from Lavamancer, it's irrelevant. Because you hit land number 4, play it, and then if you hit land number 5, play Batter Skull, you're pretty happy.
Well, the issue is he
knows
wear and
tear.
He knows about wear and tear from the ability click, so there's
right.
all sorts of, he can't really be all in on Stoneforge.
No, you're right,
I think that double block is totally legitimate.
I think at this point, actually, after knowing the second plow, I don't think Josh has any line of play that's going to lead him to beat this Geist here.
Yeah. And Josh can.
He knows.
Andrew's draws were back-to-back. Geist same trap after a Geist got clicked away, and then plow where he needed a second plow to blow Josh out, and now
I think you still 100%. You should have brainstormed prior to that Stoneforge Mystic, knowing that those equipments are so bad against the wear and tear.
The best laid plans, etc., now.
Yeah, I think it's double Delver. I think he's going to play flip both Delvers here. That might be something.
The little bit of hope that Josh has here is that Andrew's out of cards and Josh is at a pretty high life total, so it's possible he's going to be able to get something into play to block and trade, or at least hold off Geist for a little while.
Right, I think he's going to. I really think it's double Delver. Pretty good. If he doesn't put an instant on top, I'm going to be pretty upset with him. But maybe he drew Geist. If he drew Geist, it's probably better than Delvers anyway.
Safer.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so he's going to ponder.
Maybe he doesn't have
Delver.
Yeah, it must have been Ponder instead of Delver. I thought I saw Delver.
He does find a Delver and a spell to flip, so that's not much more you can really ask for here from Josh's perspective.
Let's see if he has another. Yeah, that is a second Delver. So he actually only had one. It was a Delver Ponder. I thought it was Delver.
So he's really well set up now.
Yeah, I like where he is. And I think Andrew 100% sends that Geist in there and prays he double blocks here, which we know he's not going to do.
Yep. And I think that if you're in Josh's position, and I'm pretty sure this is what happened, he knows now that wear and tear is lingering, and he's off of the equipment plan altogether.
Right, I like that play. I think I would have been off it the turn before. I completely forgot about the wear and tear. with that in mind, when he played the Stoneforge prior to that, the Brainstorm Shuffle on his way, he did a similar thing. He just had kind of time walked himself. He had to waste a turn to do that instead. So Andrew will get in there. We're taking all this damage here.
And Josh quickly says no blocks, and now Andrew on empty. Both Delvers flip, and Andrew's life total fairly low from some of the damage he took earlier in the game. And Josh could not untap fast enough.
Right, he is. You attack for 6 here. And kill him in 1 turn. You were at high enough life total. There's not one card in Magic that Andrew can draw. You have to assume it was a land or a daze or something dumb that is not going to really affect you because you would have played it. He's being very safe. I like the double attack here. It gives Andrew a turn for a lightning bolt to stop you, not even to kill you.
Draws Young Pyromancer.
And this would have been the ball game. But Josh gave Andrew 1 extra turn to draw a removal spell for that Delver, and then give himself even more time, because then he'll be on another extended clock of 2 more turns.
And Josh also has access to Source of Plowshares, which is relevant not only to potentially break up a token if he's feeling so inclined, but also plow his own insect dial operation.
It was definitely right to send both in. And here's the reason, another reason. When you're Josh, you know your deck well, you know Legacy well. In blue, white, red, can you name a card possible to deal those last points of damage to you or to defeat you? I don't think there is a card.
He's going to plow the Young Pyromancer in a turn.
Because now, Andrew can come back in this game.
Draws a card, knocks Andrew to 3 more.
We need a very soft. Oh, that's bad news for Andrew.
Found a Reb, which shuts a lot of doors.
Yeah, that's.
This is also turn 0 of extra time. And with that, Andrew on 7. Josh gets turns 2 and 4.
If this game isn't a draw or a loss for Josh, he's going to think back to that double Delver. What's the motto? Be aggressive. Get in there.
Attacks is his turn. If I understand things correctly, turn 2 of extra time. He's going to go ahead and just waste land for the sake of it.
He does have Spell Pierce, so it might be relevant.
Draws. It's a volcanic island.
What turn is this?
I believe Josh is untapping into turn 4.
Oh no, so this could be...
Attacks.
I'm going to ask Andrew...
Andrew falls to 1. And...
Here comes the discussion.
Brainstorm the draw for Andrew.
Blast, easy.
Easy blast.
And this will show Andrew that the game is unwinnable, and usually you'll have a Magic player discussion here. Will you concede? Will you concede? I have the game. And we won't know what happens for a while.
Yep,
but
we're gonna...
They might go and just draw it up.
It looks like, based on Josh's body language, I would guess that was a draw.